Welcome back to Half A Hot Rods. Remember last time we had this big red beauty in the shop? We were just getting it running, getting it driving, getting it going down the road. Well, we did that and a few other things, and it decided that it wanted to try and set the right rear brake on fire. So we addressed some stuff with the brakes, a couple other things. We're going to show you that stuff in this video because it's all pretty common for a car this age. Here we go. All right, it's the next week. I've got a couple hours today to mess around with this. I noticed when I was pulling the car forward to park it that it felt like the rear brakes were dragging, which would make sense with the leak that I saw from the left rear. So now I've got a couple hours to figure out how to remove fender skirts. I've never done that before. And then dig in there and see if it's a wheel seal or see if it's an axle seal or a wheel cylinder. And then hopefully get parts ordered. I'm assuming nobody's going to have parts for this. I'm hoping maybe they will because it should just be a GM rear end. But I don't know. Last time I went to get a fuel filter and the first place I went did not have the short Rochester in carburetor fuel filter, which just boggled my mind. But, you know, it is what it is. So me and Hound are going to get to work. You ready, buddy? You ready to go to work? Okay. Yes, stump? No stump. Yes, stump? No stump. You ready to work, Hound? Hondo, are you ready to work? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to set you up here out of the way, so hopefully I don't knock you down, and figure it out. Well, that was easier than I expected. I guess this just holds it tight. You get the sides in place. You get that end. And that end slid into place. And then she just cinches down in the middle. That was much easier than I expected. You would think, after my recent shenanigans, that I would have broke all those lug nuts loose before I jacked the car up. However, I'm here to tell you, I don't always learn from my mistakes. And neither should you.
What?
Let's go get a fine adjustment tool. Well, someone has oiled the brakes. Oh, we've definitely got a seal blown out on a wheel cylinder. No, that's not gear oil. I spoke too soon. However, these are quite moist. I don't think it's gear oil. Gear oil has a very distinctive smell. Oh, I really don't want to do axle seals in this. We got moisture in there, and I don't know if it's from the axle seal leaking or from that wheel cylinder boot being gone. Well, let's pull the other side off and see what we get there. Hey, good news! This side is dusty and dry, just like we want it to be. That wheel cylinder does not appear to be bad. That axle seal does not appear to be bad. On these old cars, it seems like there's always more than one choice for rear brakes. I see that the drum is stamped max diameter 11.09, so that tells me they're 11-inch diameter. I'll put a tape measure on here and make sure that that's like 2 inches. And that way I know what size brakes I have, because it'll make a difference when I order the wheel cylinders. Probably, maybe, I don't know. We'll get a wheel cylinder and an axle seal. I will roll under the back of this thing and try and take a picture of the rear differential cover so that I can identify what rear end is in it via the internet. And then hopefully we can find some parts for this hog. You know, you never know. Just because it's the same fuel filter that they used for 25 years on all Rochester carburetors doesn't mean that the parts store will keep that $3 part in stock. Yeah, just as I expected. 2 inches. Yeah, I would have guessed it was 6, but I don't know. I decided to see if I can clean these shoes up or if we're going to have to replace them. Also, on an unrelated note, either that finger got dirtier than the rest or I've got that bandage on too tight. So we might just loosen that guy up or take it off, see if she's still bleeding. Starting to feel a little funny in there. Yeah, she's done bleeding. You just want to grind on them until you can taste the asbestos in your teeth, and then you know you're good. Well, I went to town and actually found a wheel seal and a wheel cylinder. First place I went looking for it. So we're back a couple days later. We're going to pull this rear diff off, turn that axle loose, and then get that seal replaced, get the wheel cylinder replaced, and hopefully by the time I get that all done, my buddy will be here to help me bleed brakes. There she goes. We're going to pull this bolt out, which will let this pin come out, which will let the axle slide in, pull a C-clip, pull the axle out, I think. We're about to find out. Return the diff until the pin falls out. Oh, I can't pry anywhere. There's a gas tank in the way, and everything's in the way. We're going to be very careful here. Whack the camera. You're not just going to cooperate and fall out of there? I've had 2 differentials apart now, so I'm not real confident about what I'm doing here. I just need you to come out of there. So we're going to use the softer end of a screwdriver, or try to, and the big hammer. I don't know why you don't want to come out of there. Out. Why don't you move? Maybe it's supposed to go the other way. Now I'm getting gear oil everywhere. Awesome. At least it cleans off easy. No, it doesn't. So I'm really not sure what's next. I need to figure out why that's not coming out of there. I think it may just need more force, but I'm probably going to go double check myself before I just apply more force so that I don't break something. And we'll be back. Well, I'm glad I went and looked, because first video I pulled up to watch, I was reminded that that bolt that you pull out that retains the pin should be longer. It should have a pin itself, really. And so I went back and looked at the bolt that I pulled out of this, and you can see that's broke. Now, the right thing to do is to drill that out, remove it, fix it. The problem is, I don't know that I can, because I'm not sure I can get in there. If I was going to do it, I'd maybe start drilling with a regular drill bit like this guy, and then use a left-handed drill bit and try and go that way. The problem is you can see these threads go all the way to the top. So if you muck up the threads inside of there, then you got a problem. Well, you just pull the center section out and drill it out. Problem is, this is the first step to pulling the center section out, because you have to pull this out, drop that thick pin out, and then pull the axles. Then you can get that center chunk out. So if I could do all that, I wouldn't need to do this. We're going to hold the drill up there and see if it's even something I can do. I don't think I can. Here's the other thing. I was about 50-50 on whether the axle seal was leaking, but I thought it's a simple job. I'll go ahead and knock it out. It may all be wheel cylinder. So my thought is, unless this is easy, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be, we just put it back together. So there's the hole I got to get to. And you can see with my drill, I'm not going to be able to get square on it. I mean, I might, if it didn't fight me, it might come out, or I might just make a bigger mess of it than it currently is. It's not like I was taking this apart for a noise in the rear end. I was taking it apart because the axle seal might be leaking. So this may just go down as the world's longest rear differential fluid change, and we'll do a wheel cylinder. Extracting that little guy in my shop is kind of, if it was my own car, I would probably attempt it and figure it out, but I don't want to make a bigger problem on somebody else's car. And it may live forever that way. Like I said, there's no metal in the diff. Everything looks good that way. And I'm not 100% sure that that axle seal is leaking. Not what I wanted to find. You can rebuild these. They make a hone for it and everything.
Yeah.
In kits, but a new one's like $12.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's what I did. We got a new one. Made in China is a city in the United States, right?
No.
No. Nope.
I think they're good enough. Good enough for government work. Ask me how I know. That's probably good enough. And then we'll just put these in here. And that's for the hose. That's the bleeder. So they make a real long-handled deal that you like hook in that, and then you hook it over the edge of this, and then you go, and it just goes clunk and falls on there.
Yeah, you would think you'd own one of those.
You would think I would, but who does drum brakes? Apparently I do.
So you're saying Christmas presents exist? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's where that went, isn't it? I was trying to go here because I'm an idiot.
No, it goes to that one.
I'm like, oh, we're halfway there.
I assumed you knew what you were doing.
No, that's why you shouldn't assume.
I was just guessing.
Got it.
There we go. No fancy tools required. Okay, we jam the drum on there, and then we bleed brakes. All right, go ahead and pump it up a little bit. Give it 2-3 pumps, and then hold it. That's really not working well at all. Pump it and hold it. I don't feel like I'm getting any fluid back here.
The pedal's not changing.
Is it pumping up at all?
It's never gotten soft.
I don't understand what's happening. Yeah, that pedal doesn't move at all. What the heck's going on here?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't feel right.
Alright, so we were trying to bleed the brakes, and the pedal's hard as a rock. I don't know why. I'm not getting any fluid back there. So, we're going to start it and see if that changes anything. I don't think it should. Be a good test of a cold start. It's been sitting a week. We're going to give her a couple of pumps, and then see what happens. Give her a couple more. Great. Oh. It's a big block. You just needed more pumps. Pedal's giving some now.
That looks different.
It's giving a little. I'll let you feel it since you felt it before. Okay, so we did get the brakes to bleed. We got fluid back there, both with the engine running and with it not running. Took a lot of pressure with it not running, but maybe that's just because it's a big master cylinder, big car. I don't know. We are getting brake fluid back there. Then we'll throw our wheels on and confirm that the brakes stop the wheels and move on to the next problem.
That's called foreshadowing.
Well, the Pontiac left us, but then I got a call as soon as I got home saying that the right rear wheel was smoking. So apparently the little bit of fluid being on the brake shoes on the left rear wasn't what was making the brakes grab a little bit. So I went over to their house, threw a right rear wheel cylinder on it because it was not retracting on one side, but then we went to bleed it, couldn't get any fluid to it. Start the car and hit the brakes, and then all of a sudden we can get fluid to it and it'll lock the brakes up. I'd seen this on other people's YouTube channels, never experienced it for myself, but what I believe has happened is with the power brake assist, it's got enough power to push the fluid past the hose, but the spring pressure on the drum brakes isn't enough to retract the brakes and push the fluid back into the hose, because that rubber hose that goes from the body down to the axle is failing internally and closing up the passageway. Should be a pretty simple repair, right? Just pull that hose off, put a new one on. Problem is, those fittings have been together for 50 years and they're soft. They're made out of brass or something. So, broke one on a steel line going across the axle, and then I am in the process of twisting the head part off the other side of it. So today we're going to get to learn how to flare brake lines, and we're going to put a union in that and fix that part of the steel line. The alternative is running all the way to the front with all new steel line, and that's huge, and all that stuff is recessed up in the side of the frame. So we're going to cut it, flare it. I got to go rent a flare tool and figure out how to do it. And then we'll buy a new piece of steel line for the other side for the rusty part. We'll replace that rear rubber line. So anyway, here we go. Well, I couldn't find my Cyclops light, which is the best light I've got. And I guess the silver lining is I found it. But I think we're going to have to let it charge, because I was over at their house for a few days under the car. And it rode all the way back here on the trailer. I'm going to try and give you an idea what we're looking at here. Dang it, it's so low. So there's the rubber hose we're trying to remove. I got the end, that end's loose. But this other end, the other end that's up in there, the fitting's trying to come off of. So that's where we're going to have to pull the steel line down, twist that end off, and yeah, cut and flare a new one. So that's where we're at there. And then on the other side, over yonder way, this is the end where the rubber hose connects to the steel line going to the passenger side. The end just twisted off. It looked like it was turning, but it was rusty, so it just twisted the steel line off. So we'll replace that chunk going out to the wheel. That one should be less of a pain because we'll just buy a new chunk of line and bend it, and I won't have to flare either end. And I've already had this end off because I replaced the wheel cylinder. What are you licking? Are you ashamed of yourself? Don't groan at me. You're the weird one. You know it's bad when even your dog's giving you attitude. I think what we're going to do is we're going to cut that rubber hose because she's hosed anyway. The hose is hosed.
I see what you did there.
It's real dark under here. Wish I had a good light. That's pretty good. Alright, so I think we're gonna cut that rubber hose and then just fight it out. Luckily there's nothing in the way, like the muffler. And then we'll take this bolt out. Man, they didn't want these to move. There's another bolt there. And hopefully that'll allow us enough movement for me to do what I need to do. Just gotta quit looking at it and get her done, right? Sometimes if you look at it longer, you figure out a better way. But sometimes you're just wasting time because you don't want to do it. I'll let you decide which one of those is happening right now. This is dumb. Why is it gotta be like that? Hound dog! Hound dog! How to turn a half-hour job into 2 days. Stand by. Oh yeah, and the line directly above it is a fuel line. That's why I couldn't heat that with a torch like I wanted to. So, good job, GM. That was brilliant. Okay, so after a little bit of cussing, a little bit of fighting, and a little bit of cutting, we got that one out of there. I think we can get away with replacing that with a 12-inch chunk, assuming I can figure out how to do the flares. So we'll move on to the crossover piece on the end of the axle. So this is probably not the most exact way to do it. Really, to get a good measurement, I would straighten this all the way out. However, if I leave it bent like this, then I can bend the new one to match, and it should go in easier. So we're just going to try and do this. And yeah, that's what I thought. It's going to be about a 36-inch chunk. So 1 foot on one side, 3 foot on the other side. We'll make sure they both go into the rubber hose that I've already got, and a union, and we'll rent a flaring tool and a tubing cutter, because you can't just zip it off with a cutoff wheel. It's not going to work right, I guess. That's what I've seen on the interwebs. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll make a parts run. Be back in a few. So I want to take my little chunks of steel line with me to make sure I get the right size. So I'm going to show you what I would have done in the car if that other fuel line wouldn't have been so close. So I've got it set up in a vise here. We're just going to heat it up, work it back and forth with a line wrench, and hopefully it'll spin out of there. So I couldn't get my wrench in there and turn it. I just heated it up real good with a torch, worked it back and forth a little bit and it broke right loose. Just trying to get rid of some of the rust and the crud and the 50 years worth of just junk in there. I guess brake fluid is flammable. Look at that. Or maybe that's grease. Because if I could have got this to broke loose, then we wouldn't be dealing with all the flaring and all that shenanigans. Cutting, tubing cutters, renting tools, having to figure out how to do something new on somebody else's car. None of those things are ideal. Let's see if that helped us any. She's warm. I don't know if you can smell that, but it ain't good. Just like this vise. My good vise is on the bench. Oh. Yeah, broke right loose. I wonder if that wrench is hot now. But here's the thing though. That line obviously needs to stay still. That's what we want, is for that line to stay still, and we can back that fitting out. And everything is todo bueno. Sí, todo bueno. Except for I can't get my wrench off, and I'll bet she's warm now. But anyway, that's how it would have went in the car if we could have torched it. So, if you've got a solution to that, I'd sure love to hear it, because I started to torch it and then got concerned about what that other line was, and I'm glad I did, because it was a fuel, I think, a vapor line. So, yeah, I'm glad I didn't go crazy with the torch on that. All right, now we're going to go to town. Okay, I'm back from lunch break and trip to town and running a bunch of errands, selling a fifth wheel camper, helping hook up said fifth wheel camper in the rain, change of clothes, and now I've got some stuff to do lines with. So we're going to try it on one of the old lines first and see if I can do it. I've watched a couple YouTube videos on how to do it. I bought a tubing cutter for 13 bucks. I rented this guy, double flaring tool set. I think the rental fee was 30, but you get all that back when you return it. The threads are not great on it, so hopefully they hold up. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Like I said, we're gonna try it on old wore out stuff first. Be a nice clean end. They say you should clean that up with a file. And then we put it in this guy through the appropriate deal, quarter. And then we pick the right one of these, which is also quarter. And we set it so that we throw that on the floor. And then we set it so it's even with the shoulder on that deal there. Okay. And we crank these down nice and tight. And then you put this in it this way. And you put this little feller over it. And those threads don't feel happy. You might get a little silicone lubricant and put on that, see if that helps them. This is the only downside to rental tools, is people tend to use them and abuse them, not treat them like their own. So you never know if you're going to get one that's going to work well or it's going to be trashed and should have been replaced, but they didn't. Those guys are not happy. Might help some, but. And then you just hold on to it with all four of your hands. And crank it down. Oh my God. I may not be able to do it with this. These threads are so bad. I may be going back to town. It turns hard when you have no pressure. It's definitely not going to turn easy when it's got lots of pressure on it. Or I may just have to buy my own. Problem is, every time I go to town, it's 45 minutes or an hour. Why does that look like it's going crooked? Because it is. That's cool. That's definitely not what we wanted. Well, can we try and trim it again? Try it again? Let's just see what happens. So there's the factory one. Still got the nut on it, right? There's the one I made. Problem is, I'm not sure if I can do that under the car with that thing. I guess there's only one way to find out, right? And we're back! Right on. Okay. After many unsuccessful attempts with the rental tool, I think the reason I was unsuccessful, except for the one example I did up here on the bench, was 1, because I was underneath the car, 2, because the threads were all jacked up on the rental tool, and 3, because it was just a cheap rental tool, I hope. So I returned it. I went and bought this guy off their shelf that I won't be able to return, and I'm hoping that it works smoother and better, and I will be able to manage this under the car. I'm also hopeful that I didn't attempt that so many times that now I'm going to run short of line to make it as far as I need to make it. Because I bought a 12-inch section of line to replace the bad spot, and the next shortest one they had was 40 inches, which I don't want to get into that. So we're gonna get this guy unboxed, maybe do a test one, and then see what we get. Looks like a pretty good double flare to me. The question is, can I reproduce it under the car? Because I certainly couldn't with the other tool. That I'd be comfortable with. Alright, let's try this again. You think this is helpful? Hey, do you think that's helpful? He thinks I'm here to pet him. That is definitely not my purpose. Can you move so I can get out? Yeti, move. Go on. Get out of the way. Yeti, go on. Move. Dude, I can't even get up.
I really don't care.
Well, shoot. I think that just might be the ticket. Maybe it wasn't completely operator error. Some of it was probably operator error. But that looks pretty good to me. Looks a lot like that one there. So now we'll just see if we can join these two together in unholy matrimony. Then we can get on to what should be the easier part. Okay. I think that connection is tight. My torque is limited by the length of my wrench.
That's what she said.
Sometimes it's not the size of the wrench, it's how you use it. Okay, let's do the other half of this, which should be less painful. Should be. That's better. Got a little shoulder on it there to go through here and hold the, thingamajig to the whatchamacallit. Alright, let's go bolt down our rubber hose. That'll give us a place to anchor our steel lines from side to side and see what we get. Let's get that started. And then here's something fun. I had to get this new stick of steel line, right? This guy. And the first one I bought was 12 inches. I assumed that all of them would come in 12-inch increments. No, this one's 40. I needed 36. 4 inches more than I needed. I guess there's a first time for everything. I should bend this to match the old one before I get under here. Let's see where it gets us. I don't know why that has to be angled down, like you're not going to be able to get it to the drum or to the axle. Stupid. Like if that came straight out of there, this would be a significantly easier connection to make. Why doesn't that feel like it's going in far enough to get the threads to start? That's another problem. Why won't you just go? Ow, 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 ow. I figured it out. The reason it feels like it's not threading in is because it's not. This has a bubble flare, which has more distance before the threads start than this one. I would just cut it, reflare it, but I only have one of those fittings because rusty, broken lines are the reason that I'm doing this. So now we'll take that back to the parts store, see if they'll let me return it, being that I've already bent it up, they might not, and try and get the right one for it. Back in a few. Another trip to town! Woo! But the wife has my car, which means I need to take her car, which means I need to get cleaned up before I get her car, because her car is nicer than mine, as it should be. Stand by. Okay, I'm back from my third extra trip to town. That's 4 total to fix a simple rubber brake line. And after adjusting the tilt wheel on my wife's car when I took it to town, the tilt handle decided to fall off. So, more content coming. That's what we're looking at there. It's just more videos to help people out. But I now have what I believe is the correct type of fitting on the correct-ish length of line, and a groany dog. Are you groaning? Is your life so terrible? Okay, so we're gonna give this another shot and see what happens. Goodness, hound dog. I saw a low-rise alignment rack on Marketplace here last week, and I thought, that wouldn't be high enough to really do me much good. I'll tell you what, that sounds pretty darn good right now. Please tell me why that can't just come straight out. Give me a good reason. Well, folks, looks like I'm going back to town again. Because let me ask you a question. Even if you don't know anything about cars, This 1970s Pontiac, do you think that it has metric threads? I bet it don't! I bet it don't! So I guess I'll go put clean clothes on again to get back in my wife's car, which is still broken, and we'll go to town for the 5th time. This time I'll take the old wheel cylinder with me, and we will test fit. Holy crap. Shouldn't be this hard. Okay, I'm back after my 5th and hopefully final trip to town to complete this half-hour job. I now have a steel line that is 3/16, standard thread, standard flare. This should be the right piece. I took my old wheel cylinder with me to match it up and screw it into, and it threaded into that. Not great because it's all rusty and crusty, but I think good enough. So get all this paper off here, and then we will try her again. Unfortunately, I have monkeyed around long enough today that I am now down to about 45 minutes before I have to quit, so I can get ready to go do other things. Other things that I like doing, but I really thought this was going to be something I wrapped up this morning, not 3:45 in the afternoon when the alarm went off. Saying, I either win or I learn. I think a wrestler said it. Comment below if you know who said that. I'm pretty sure it was a wrestler. I either win or I learn. Well, I learned some today. I mean stuff. I learned some stuff today. Learned more than I ever wanted to know about the variety of steel lines available. It is certainly going to leave a lasting impression. I think that's it. It's going. It's going. Hell yeah. We're going to snug that end down and then do some bending. Yep, probably about 4 inches too much, just like I expected. I've got that tool. Do we just cut 4 inches off it, flare it? That's the right way to do it.
Someone's a glutton for punishment.
In theory, I should be able to do it again, right? Do the right things for the right reasons. Oh, please don't let this come back to haunt me. We're going to do this one outside the car, though. Much easier to control that way. Man, I hope I don't regret this. I mean, why would you buy the flaring tool if you're not going to use it? Looks like a double flare to me. I might just be getting this. Hot dog. Now it should be the right length. Let's go see how we did. This is good. Make sure we get plenty of room around the suspension parts. The question of, do I have an eyeful and a mouthful of rust and dirt? The answer is yes. The question of, do we have any leaks, remains to be seen. Could just be that it's not leaking brake fluid because there ain't any in it. Might have to go read up on how to use this guy. And then after we get done doing what we're doing tonight, maybe we'll come back out and use it, or just another person. And we'll get this thing, get the brake split, and then maybe the brakes will work. That would be cool. I mean, they work now, they just work too good. Maybe they'll release. That would be even better. Anyway, I'll be back later tonight or first thing in the morning. I don't know. I should do it tonight, but I don't know if I'm gonna. We'll see you soon. Okay, we're back, and it's the next day. Let's be honest. When I said I was going to go out and do something and then eat dinner, and we knew there was a fair chance I wouldn't come back out last night. Anyway, after some careful internet research and consideration, we decided to go with the tried and true two-person method of bleeding brakes. So Ches is here to help out. Ready? Apparently that means yes. Apparently.
Insert peanut butter baby.
Apparently that means yes. What?
Peanut butter baby. She says, he's covered in peanut butter. She says, does that feel good? And he goes, ah.
Okay, so when I can't find that on the internet, that's what it means. Some of you will know, most of you won't. Anyway, so what we're going to do is Chesney's going to pump the brake pedal. She's going to hold pressure on the brake pedal. I'm going to open the bleeder screw. It's going to go and then I'm going to close it. She's going to pump it up again. It's going to do it again, and we're going to do it until there's no and it's just blow, 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 blow. Got it? She got it. And we will start farthest away from the master cylinder, which is going to be passenger rear. Ready, hon?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and pump it. All right, hold it. Did the pedal go down? No. Pump it. Oh, there we got a little dribble.
Rinse, repeat.
Let's go check the master, make sure that we're not running her out of fluid. Hound's like, I would ride in this car. It's very cool. Hound heard all about how cool this car is. This tripod is no bueno for caca. Ooh, we're pretty low in the back. Hopefully we didn't run it too low and introduce more air. No. Not quite. Not quite. Good thing I stopped when I did, though. I want to be very careful not to get any of this on the paint. It's no bueno for paint. Yeah, we'll make sure that blinker fluid's full.
Brake pedal.
Alright, pump it.
That's a lot tighter now.
Okay, hold it. Ooh, that was almost all fluid, I think.
Yeah, the pedal.
Pump it. Hold it. Ooh, got a little air bubble yet. Pump it. Hold it. And then take your foot off.
Okay.
Go back to the far side. Not like the cartoon.
The far side?
Ever seen the far side cartoons?
No.
Look it up. Fun stuff. Very intellectual.
second time.
That's funny, Jess.
It really is. Very intellectual.
I'm glad we're having a good time, Chance.
Me too!
It's not like this is taking me, 3 days to do a 30-minute job. As long as you're laughing, that's what I'm about. Just pump the brakes and be quiet. You're so helpful.
I know.
You're my favorite helper, Chess.
I know.
You know what that says about the other ones?
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy.
He's gonna hit him again. He's gonna hit him again. He's gonna hit him again.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby!
Dang it.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, are you unhappy that I didn't hit my head? Not done yet. I'll probably do it again. I'm gonna make a whole video of Chesney's jokes. See how well it does.
That'll be the best video ever.
Look at that. Now I'm all dusty and dirty, so I guess I'll have to test drive it in my underwear
Ew.
or change clothes. You don't know what makes good video.
No comment.
What?
Hey, you can make those cute little wrenches into rings.
Into rings?
Rings. Or bracelets.
Or I could use them as wrenches.
No.
Ooh, that pedal's hard.
Uh-huh.
Now the question is, will the brakes release? Because that was the problem before. Alright, I'm going to roll under it, check all my new fittings for leaks again, reposition the one line, check it for leaks again, hose everything down with brake clean, and I think we'll put the wheels on it and see what happens. Alright, wardrobe change complete. Let's see if she'll start and stop. And I've got so much confidence in my abilities that I put big blocks behind the rear tires just in case. Well, I didn't feel terrible, so I guess we'll take her for a ride. Let's go endanger the public. Well. It stops and goes again. Are they hot? Nope. Nope. This is the one that was smoking when he got home last time. Nope. And nope. There'll be some warmth, especially on the fronts with discs, because there's always some friction. But yeah, they all feel pretty good. I don't feel anything dragging. It looks like we can call the man again and tell him this car's done again. I wasn't planning on doing a second episode on this car, because there were a lot of things I had to kind of admit my limitations on, really. The rear differential, I just don't have the tools to drill that bolt out and take care of that like it needs to be done. When it comes to the wiring from the fuel sender all the way to the front, it runs through the interior of the car, and it's in a plastic loom, and I expect every little piece of plastic in that is probably going to break while we would be working on it, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to tear the car up. So I kind of had to recognize my limitations a little bit on it and be honest with him and myself about what I was comfortable doing on it. And again, I don't want it to turn into a super long project, and I think we just barely avoided that. I don't know if I addressed it in the last video or not. If I didn't, the seatbelt thing, there's too much wiring under there. I don't want to just go cutting and pulling on stuff. I explained that to him. He was very cool and understanding about that. It sounds cheesy, I know, but I'm kind of honored that I got to work on something this cool. Just like with the Model A. I never thought I'd work on that because it's so far out of my normal wheelhouse. My normal wheelhouse is old Chevy trucks. You know, I'm comfortable working on a square body. And usually the stuff I'm working on is a little rough. You know, we're pulling it out of a field where almost anything we do is going to make it better. This project really, I mean, this should have been a half-hour project if it was just the hose. But that's how this stuff snowballs. We had two broken lines. Well, essentially we had one that we were going to round off, so we had to cut it. And then we had the rusty one that broke. That's pretty normal. The rusty one that broke would have been easier to deal with than the other one, but we learned how to do some flaring, learned how to use a new tool, bought a new tool. There have been a couple times when I could have used it, and now that I am a little more confident with it, I may make my own lines. I may just order some steel line and some fittings and, you know, do the stuff myself. Rather than piecing it together like I have on some past projects from stuff I pulled out of the junkyard. So really, I mean, the time frame on this, I definitely didn't do myself any favors on time. And I made 5 trips to town. Some were my fault, some were not my fault. You know, I guess I should take responsibility for not looking at the lines and saying, hey, this is metric, that's not going to work. I had a boss that used to say you have to inspect what you expect. So some of it's on me. I know that metric, this car doesn't have metric anything. But 2 wheel cylinders, no. This time we just did, so what did we do? Because this is kind of 2 separate situations for me that are all coming together in one video. So we ended up doing 2 wheel cylinders, changing the diff fluid, 1 rubber hose, steel line, a section of steel line with fluids, and we include the cost of the tool in there. We probably had 30, 50, 80, probably had $100 worth of parts. And then the labor to do all this, it probably would have cost us 5 or 6 hours of labor to do all that stuff pretty easy. And most shops are going to want to replace the shoes, and that's probably the right way to do it. But there's lots of wear left in those, and they cleaned up okay, and I've had good luck with it in the past, so I'm going to leave them. I'm not going to do it. The axle seal and the twisted off bolt, those are going to have to be addressed by somebody with more skills and better tools than me. What else did we look at this go round? Yeah, so we recognized some stuff that was beyond our means, figured out some stuff that I haven't done before. I think it was Dan Gable. Is it Dan Gable that said, I either win or I learn? Maybe. And I learned a ton this time, whether I wanted to or not, about the different fittings, the different kinds of lines, how to flare stuff. I learned more than I wanted to. But for now, it's a 50-year-old car. There's going to be more. But for now, she's back on the road again. So if you like what we're doing, check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And I appreciate you watching. If we offered you any value, entertainment, or otherwise, consider subscribing. Give us a like, a thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything. And until next time, thanks again for watching. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it. It just may take us a little longer than it should.